My name is Alicia Reinecke. I'm the Executive Director here at the Children's Developmental Center. The Children's Developmental Center offers developmental preschool services for children 18 months to kindergarten age. All have to qualify to be here, and by qualifying, that means they have one or more area of developmental concern established by a professional, a therapist, a medical professional. We can assist with coordinating outpatient therapy services through Lima Memorial Hospital while they're here, which is very helpful for our families who usually have a lot of running and appointments for their children. The Community Connection Fund has been amazing. We've been able to apply multiple times over the years. Most recently was about a year or so ago, and we were able to use it for sensory items. Most of our children have sensory integration issues, and so there are items that we need. We purchased items such as a crash pad, some sensory swings, some different floor sensory tiles, just some great items that have been very useful for the kids. It just helps us serve our children better and help our teachers, help the children feel comfortable and transition into the program easier. We've watched kiddos who came to us 100% nonverbal, having lots and lots of behavioral and sensory issues, moving on to kindergarten, much more able to be successful in that environment. We'd like to thank Midwest Electric and all of the co-op members who participate in the Community Connection Fund. We know we've greatly benefited over the years from the project, and as well as other organizations as well. So thank you for your support.
Hi, my name's Travis Relsel. I've worked at Midwest Electric for like 4.5 years now, going on 5. It's something different every day. It's never the same thing.
I'm Jesse Tooney. I've been working with Midwest for 14 years now. I was an electrician for 8 years before I became a lineman. You get to work outside, you're not always in the same spot. I thought when growing up I was going to work in a factory, and I did when I was 16, just cleaning lines and stuff, and I thought this is not for me. I like to be outside and moving around.
My name's Chad Klaus. I'm with Midwest Electric. I've been with Midwest for 18 years, and I'm the crew leader. Being a lineman, if you have a skill set of working with your hands, liking the outdoors, hard worker, wanting to be a leader, you would have the skill set that it's required to be a lineman. It's dangerous, there's long hours, but flipping the lights on, the gratitude from the members is what keeps you coming back.
My name is Steve. I've worked for Midwest Electric for 37 years. It's just like a family business where everybody gets along with each other and everybody watches out for each other.
The brotherhood that they have here, it's a real good family atmosphere, you know, very understanding people. It was the best career move I ever made. I'm happy I did it, and I wouldn't think twice about doing it again.
I'm Joyce Tracy, and I'm the Development Director of the Lima Symphony Orchestra. This is our Young People's Concert. We offer 2 of them. We have a 9:30 show and an 11 o'clock show. We bring over 3,600 kids into the concert hall who maybe never have had that opportunity, 1, to be in a concert hall, 2, to hear the music that they're going to hear today. And it's not just about the music. They get to learn about rhythm, and they get to learn about the joy of all the different instruments, being the woodwinds or the brass or the violins.
Gabrielle, and I'm on the Midwest Community Connection Fund. What that is our members up their bill to the nearest dollar, and we put it into a fund, and then we donate money to organizations. Today, I'm an usher here at the Civic Center, so I'm here, but today the music was great, and we donated money to them also so they could have the youngsters come in from all over.
They get kind of an up-close opportunity, as well as they're interactive. We get them to dance, we get them to kind of roll right with the music.
Thank you to the members of Midwest Electric that donate money to the Community Connection Fund.
I think anyone who has the opportunity to spend the morning here with us can see the joy in the kids' faces and the interaction and really, truly taking part of the music. And that's what it's all about. Music brings lots of joy.
We've got you. It's a pledge to make sure you're always taken care of. A pledge that your Touchstone Energy Cooperative honors each and every day. When it comes to keeping things running smoothly or getting them back on track when they're not, we've got you. Always.
Midwest Electric is a Touchstone Energy Cooperative, your source for power and information.
Hello, I'm Emily Britton from the New Bremen Blanketeers, and this is fellow Blanketeer Drew Meyer. The Blanketeers started approximately 2010. Two ladies started this as a mission to provide comfort to other groups, people in need, and that is still our focus today, to provide comfort to those in need in the area. Currently in our organization, we have 20 active members that consistently work on blankets such as this. We need that many to be able to donate $2,000 a year. These blankets have gone to veterans, such as the red, white, and blue one you see here, and the veterans that are in hospice care at St. Mary's Hospital, Everhart Hospice, and Miami County Hospice receive our blankets. One of our places we really like to donate to is St. Mary's Hospital. Any child that is treated in urgent care, the emergency room, or is having surgery will receive a blanket from us. Operation Santa is another area we provide blankets for. Anybody that was admitted to the hospital, was treated in urgent care or treated in the emergency room, I wanted them to have a blanket.
And at Christmas time, we also give blankets to some of the churches for their Angel Tree project too, which go to kids who have a parent in the jail system.
So on behalf of myself, Drew Meyer, and the rest of the Blanketeers here in New Bremen, we'd like to take this opportunity to thank Midwest and its members and the Community Connection Fund for this opportunity to help us provide comfort to those in need in our area. Thank you.
At Midwest Electric, you're not just a customer, but a member owner. And membership has its privileges because we look out for you. We're affordable, innovative, and member-focused. We exist to meet your energy needs through safe, reliable, and affordable electric service. Midwest Electric proudly serves more than 10,000 homes, farms, and businesses in 7 western Ohio counties. We're dedicated and devoted to assisting members in the communities that we serve. We're your local Touchstone Energy Cooperative.
Training's a 4-year apprenticeship. You go to Colt, which is in Mount Gilead, in the classroom for 10-12 classes, and then most of the job is on-the-job training, learning side by side by the linemen that are here now. That's what most of the training comes from.
So Colt is where we went to school at, and I was one of the last 2 apprentices that came through. Typically, you'll do some classroom work every day, And then the rest of the day, you'll be out in stations with different instructors, going over different scenarios or getting you ready for the field.
Cooperative, and before we get started, I'd like to make a few introductions. Starting with your board of directors, we've got Bob Barnt, Roger Rank, Kathy Brake, Randy Heinel, Larry Vandemark, Adam Johns, our attorney, Jim Wiekert, Gary Knapke, and Steve Bauer, and I'm Matt Berry, your CEO. I'd also like to recognize and thank state representatives Angie King and Roy Klopfenstein, who are here somewhere. I'd like to thank them for attending. Roy's district includes Paulding, Van Wert, and some other counties in north of us, and Angie's district includes Dark, Mercer, and Auglaize counties. And a couple of employees we've got here, Julie Marshall, our manager of administrative services. I don't know if they're in the room yet, but Paul Rogers, our engineering manager, and Kevin Schmidt, our finance manager, will also be in here in a little bit. And then our special guest today is Pat O'Loughlin, who is president and CEO for Buckeye Power. And now I'd like to hand it over to your board president, Larry Vandemark. Before that, though, you all noticed the gift you got today is a rain gauge, and you might be wondering, what am I going to do with this? So when we ordered them, we were getting plenty. It was back in April or so. We're getting plenty of rain. So hopefully it's a good omen that maybe it'll come into some use for you here soon. So, Larry.
Thanks, Matt, and good morning, everyone. At this time, I call to order the 86th annual meeting of the Midwest Electric Co-op. The Credential Committee reports that over 100 members are present in person or by ballot. Therefore, we have a quorum, and at this time, quorum for the meeting here. At this time, I'd like to invite Vice President Jim Wiekert to come up to give the invocation.
Good morning. Please bow your heads for a moment of prayer. Humbly, Lord, we come to you this morning to offer all praise, honor, and glory to your name. In keeping with your teaching to love thy neighbor as thyself, we reflect upon the ways we both serve and can better serve our brothers and sisters. In emulating your life of service and sacrifice, we look inwardly. We soul search to follow your lead to help others in all the ways we are able. A life of service is a life well lived, and I pray this morning that we all one day, henceforth, look back over a life of service as a life of true achievement and fulfillment in you. Lord, we are fortunate to be here in a place of liberty earned by the sacrifice of good people. As a distribution electric co-op at Midwest Electric, we are serving each other with a power to do great good. Much positive has been done in 86 plus years existence of our cooperative, and much more great good is yet to be done. Lord, we ask for your blessings upon the leadership team of our cooperative, that you grant them wisdom as they chart a course into the future. Also, Lord, we humbly request a hedge of safety and protection around field personnel of our cooperative and the challenging and sometimes hazardous work they do for us. Thank you, Lord, for our fellowship and meal together. In your name we pray. Amen.
Okay. Would you please stand and join me in our Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, you should have received a copy in the packet and so forth of the minutes of the last year's meeting of 2022. If there's no objections or corrections to the minutes, I will entertain a motion to accept the minutes as written. All right, is there a second? Second? It's been moved and seconded. All in favor of adopting the minutes, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carried. All right. So as we start out today, you look outside and we got a beautiful day, the sun's shining, and obviously, yeah, we could use some rain. I hope those rain gauges are a good omen on that. But anyways, as we start, it's just a fine day, and it reminds me of a husband and wife are sitting there, and the husband gets up and tells his wife, "It's a fine day." Goes on that day. Next morning, the husband gets up, "It's a fine day." Next morning, same thing. Husband gets up, "It's a fine day." Now this goes on for about a week, and finally the wife has just had it. Goes to her husband and says, "You've been getting up every morning saying it's a fine day for the past week. What is the matter?" And he responds, "Remember we had an argument last week? And you said one day, one fine day, you're going to leave? I'm just reminding you." So anyways, again, good morning. And I want to thank you for joining us this morning. We are happy to see members engaged and involved in their electric cooperative. And good morning to those who aren't able to be here and are in person, but are watching us online. In 2022, we continued a slight growth in kilowatt hour sales. A matter of fact, was our record highest sales year. Much of the growth is coming from small commercial members. Commercial sales growth is good for all members as it helps to diversify our load and helps spreads our fixed costs. It's also good for the local economic development community. Thanks to healthy sales, plus keeping expenses in check, we are once again able to avoid electric rate increase for 2022, bringing it to 13 years without a rate increase. Our current plans do call for an 8% total rate increase in 2023, which Matt will talk about today. Our electric rates are very competitive. Being a rural utility, it simply costs the electric cooperatives more to provide electricity than the city-owned or larger utilities. Still, our electric rates are the lowest for the Ohio 24 cooperatives and lower than AEP and AES of Ohio. Something that helps our electric rates is your participation in peak load management programs. By allowing us to temporarily control power to your water heater and air conditioner during the extreme peak high use periods, you help the cooperative save more than $600,000 per year in wholesale power bill from Buckeye Power. Again, we are financially sound with an equity level of 49%, which is standard in our industry. Having an equity level at our range helps us minimize our cost of capital while still having flexibility to invest in our electric system and return patronage cash back to you over time. And our focus on power reliability is as strong as ever. We invest on the average $3 million each year in our local electricity system to keep your lights on. Other highlights from 2022 include total revenue rose slightly to $34 million. The total plant asset grew to nearly $69 million, a $4 million increase from 2021. Much of the increase in the utility plant in recent years is due to our investment in SCADA and distribution automation. Last year, we paid back our members $2.2 million in patronage cash back. Since 1955, Midwest Electric has returned more than $40 million in patronage cash back to its members. We now have 1,536 miles of distribution lines to maintain. Right-of-way clearing is performed annually to help reduce tree-related outages. Tree trimming took place along 157 miles of lines in the Elida substation area and the Kossuth delivery point. We tested and treated 2,501 poles in the Lake substation area with less than 0.2% rejection ratio. Those poles that rejected will be replaced with new ones. As a result, we had one of our best years in 2022 in terms of power reliability. The average member had power available to them 99.9% of the time last year. We continue to expand our distribution automation equipment. We are nearly complete with this throughout our service area, and it has already provided payback in terms of reducing the length of power outages. We are presently working with an engineer consultant to create a new 4-year engineering work plan. We expect to include 2 new substations in our work plan, one north of Rockford and one west of Spencerville. For the past 6 years, we've been in shared service arrangements with Paulding Putnam Electric Cooperative. We share a couple of employees. This has provided good service to the members and substantial savings, and we are continuing to do that shared services with Paulding Putnam. I want to thank those of you who are involved in our grassroots legislative efforts and the co-op owners for political action. When we speak with one unified voice, we stand much better chance of fighting our challenges and affecting legislation decisions that impact our cooperative and its members. And we are facing serious threats to the cost availability of electricity. We must keep a strong voice in Washington to make sure that Midwest can provide our members reliable and reasonable electricity. And let me expand on that a little bit too. The past couple days, I and Kathy Brake was able to spend a conference with ACES in Indianapolis, where they basically talk about reliability, what the future holds, and all this stuff to keep us informed so we can keep our members informed what's happening out there. So they talk about, while we were there, you might hear, and it might be a common term, you might have heard of it already, net zero by 2050. All right? What that means is that basically by 2050, we want no carbon production type plants. Now, what that results is that either we have to retrofit some of our plants, and basically about 60%, I think, of all the U.S. generation for power comes from fossil fuel. So, but that also means some of the plants would have to be retrofit to either recapture that, which the cost of that is going to way override the benefit on that. So those things we really have to keep abreast on, and we look for you folks to help be informed on that, so that we can keep common sense in these EPA rules or whatever. Now, 2050 may sound like a long way off. It's 27 years. All right, a lot of things can happen with 27 years. But in between that 2050, there is certain goals, certain criteria, like 2030 and 2035, they want certain things done. Now, the other alternative is that you have to find other alternatives to replace those plants that produce carbon. Now, some of those ideas might be nuclear or whatever, but if you start those things today, in order to get them online, to replace what's already being generated, you're looking at 10, possibly 15 years going through the steps to get those approved. So when I say, 27 years seems like a long way off, it really isn't on those things. The other thing we look at, they mentioned that this thing is demand. Demand's going to be increased already. And to give an example, there's a Wisconsin generation co-op up there. They bought a peaking plant, similar to one, if you've been by Convoy, there's a plant that sits off of that, and it's just used for when power demand is really needed, they can start them up to produce power. Well, they bought this plant in plans to operate it maybe 2 to 3 times a year. Last year, it operated 400 times, one time 2 weeks straight, 24 hours. Those plants aren't cheap to run. So the demand is increasing. The other thing we have to look at is our grid. You know, the grid sometimes is not going to, right now, is not capable of handling all the future demand. So that would have to increase. And one person spoke up there, in order to meet the future demand, we would have to run 75,000 miles of transmission line. Now let's put that in perspective. 75,000 miles is running one line from the East Coast to the West Coast and back 15 times, or one time around the Earth. Now that's, you know, that's kind of putting it in a little bit of perspective, but that's a lot of miles that we would have to increase for the transmission to meet the future demand. So those type of things we really have to keep abreast on, and we really need your support to, when we call for action or whatever, to really apply that, to try to keep common sense throughout this industry so that we all have reliable power on there. So there is a membership booth, promotion booth out in the cafeteria that I do encourage you, if you're not signed up, to go ahead and sign up for the Co-op Owners Political Action. It's just $25 a year, and we'll give you some LED light bulbs as an incentive for signing up. But again, you know, as Matt's had some articles and so forth in the magazines and Buckeye and so forth, you know, we are facing some serious challenge. And obviously this changes as administration changes, you know, and sometimes they don't meet those goals. They lax the rules up because they know they can't meet them, but the rules are still there. So again, I encourage you to be involved in your co-op and your membership here. We're also looking at making good progress in the statewide political efforts to fix what we feel a flawed Ohio kilowatt tax rate, hour tax, I should say. And we will provide updates as we make progress with that, and if we need your help in the grassroots effort. Last but not least, I want to especially thank our employees for the outstanding job they have done to provide exceptional service. Our employees demonstrate innovation, commitment, teamwork, and dedication. So at this time, let's give our employees a round of applause for their dedication and service. Again, okay, at this time, it gives me great pleasure to introduce and let's welcome our next speaker, Pat O'Loughlin, President and CEO of the Power Supply of Buckeye Power.
Thanks, Larry, and it's a pleasure to be here with you at your annual meeting. What has become and is a unique and foundational part of being an electric cooperative. Neighbors coming together like yourself for more than 85 years now to help bring reliable and affordable electricity to the homes and businesses in your community. I'm just going to look back a little bit over this last year on some of the challenges that we faced. Like many years, we saw some severe weather. Some of the problems were just localized. Some of them were grid-wide. We also were faced with high and volatile electric fuel prices. We saw electricity prices across the country go up as much as 15 to 20%. Here locally, it was much less than that. And you just heard from Larry what a good job Midwest Electric has done at holding down costs. But the reality is we've seen high inflation in everything that we buy, from the fuel that we use to generate electricity, the materials and supplies that make up your electric system, equipment, vehicles, wages, you know it, everything's been going up. We've also seen pretty significant supply chain disruptions in our industry, and many electrical equipment devices that we use to build your electric system are backlogged a year and even longer, which is making it challenging to prepare for the needs going forward. Our electric cooperatives performed well, however, during all of these events. They've kept the lights on, they've made repairs when they needed to be made, and they've done it through dedication and cooperation. Really, several times this year we've had to have cooperatives move around the state of Ohio to help out in the hardest hit areas. That happened here, I think, this spring. You guys had a tornado run through here. We certainly saw some problems last winter as well. So while electric rates have increased some over the past year, electric rates have gone up some over the last year in many parts of the state. We are able to keep our rates stable by owning power plants, by controlling our costs, and focusing on what really matters to you all, which is reliable and affordable electricity. Our mission hasn't changed, and our commitment to you and our members has not wavered. But, as Larry pointed out, the reality of providing safe, reliable, and affordable electricity is getting more difficult each day. Across the country, we're facing a war of ideas, really, about how important it is to provide affordable and reliable electricity versus some environmental goals that many people hold to be more important. I'm here to tell you we can accomplish both, but we could also screw it up if we're not careful. More and more we're seeing the disorderly retirement of power plants across the country as unreasonable and overreaching environmental regulations that affect our power generation and increase our costs, and at the same time produce minimal environmental benefits. This year already, the US EPA has proposed 3 significant environmental regulations that are going to make it very difficult to continue to operate fossil fuel power plants in this country beyond the 2030s. And that's something that we just can't afford to do. We also face poorly designed market rules that don't really recognize the difference between what a large baseload controllable power plant like our Cardinal plant can do, providing reliability services to the grid, versus wind and solar, which are nice, but don't operate all the time and won't fill all the needs that we have for reliable service. So I want to share with you a little bit of reality here in Ohio. This slide, every dot on that slide, that's the market area, the PJM interconnection that we operate within. Every dot on that is a power plant that used to be open in the last 10 years and is no longer, has been closed down. Largely, many of them had environmental upgrades, but increasing environmental regulations and costs have caused them to shut down. Just our reality here in Ohio, as recently as 2009, we had 21 coal-fired power plants operating here in the state of Ohio. Today, we have 4, with less than 7,000 megawatts of capacity. We have about a third the capacity from our coal plants that we used to have. We have added a few natural gas plants to replace some of that. We've added some solar facilities to replace some of that. But they have not nearly done what we need to. And we are faced now with a situation where anytime we have extreme weather like we had over Christmas, that we run the risk of having power shortages. This is what happened over Christmas Eve this last year. That's the number of power plants that were out. We always have some that are not working. There's a lot that goes into making the system work. But when we get extreme cold temperatures, natural gas isn't always available. People are heating their homes with it, and there isn't always enough to meet the needs of power plants. And we saw many of the natural gas power plants go offline, which is why it's so important that we maintain the level of coal-fired and nuclear plants that we have in the country for the future. And as I think Larry did a good job of pointing out, it's going to take 15, 20, 25 years to replace these. And that's if we get busy and get started on it right now. And frankly, we're mostly dithering around worrying about wind and solar and not really working towards the kind of reliable electric services that we need. We've seen around the country, this map shows, this is an assessment by the North American Electric Reliability Corporation. They're charged by Congress to evaluate the reliability of our electric system. And like most charts, red is bad, yellow is something to be worried about, gray is okay. And you can see much of the country now during periods of extreme weather events is at risk of not being able to reliably supply their electricity system. And even in some of the gray areas, over Christmas Eve weekend, we saw 9 states have to initiate rolling blackouts here close to home. Ohio was close, but we avoided it. Reliable, affordable, and environmentally responsible power is our commitment to you, and it's something that you should expect our government to support as well. We recently had a Supreme Court ruling that beat back an EPA rule that's proposed all the way back in 2014. It takes that long to kind of get things straight sometimes. And they went ahead and issued a new rule just this last week to try to reinstate some of the same things. As I said, we have a war of ideas in this country right now. This is a quote from our EPA administrator, which is basically saying, I'm going to put in place regulations that are going to make regular fossil-fired electricity so expensive that utilities like Buckeye Power are going to have to choose to use wind and solar only. And our answer to that is we're going to see you in court, because we know that people need reliable electricity. We need it to be affordable. And right now, wind and solar just can't do what you need to have done. So we're spending a lot more time in Washington, D.C. In fact, I'm going back there Monday to testify in front of Congress about the needs that we have for reliable electricity. We've launched our own statewide campaign that we call REAL, for reliable, environmentally responsible, affordable electricity for our local communities. And we're going to need your help. As cooperatives, what we do best is come together to put forward common sense solutions for the common good. And I ask that you all think about talking to your neighbors, educate yourself a little bit more. You're going to see more and more in our magazine about sort of the situation that we're facing and what we need to do about it. I'm sure that you've all heard the voices pushing for a carbon-free environment, and of course we'd all like a cleaner future. In fact of the matter is we're getting cleaner all the time, and we're doing more in America and more in our American electric power industry than anybody to make our environment cleaner. But it's not enough for some people, and we're going to have to continue to fight for our rights to make sure that we take care of what we need. The history of your electric cooperative is our guide. It was founded by neighbors like yourself, sticking together to solve a common problem, and we're going to have some common challenges in the future, and we hope to have your support as we move forward. So thank you again for being here. Thanks for your support of your electric cooperative and your participation in its governance. Thanks. Have a great day.
Thank you, Pat, for the power supply update. I'm sure our members will have some questions about state and federal energy policy when we get to the Q&A session. And also a reminder, you talked about our Cardinal Power Plant. We occasionally do tours of our Cardinal Power Plant, and we're doing that this coming fall. So contact our office if you're interested in going on a tour of our Cardinal Power Plant. Well, good morning. Thank you for attending and for being an active participant in your electric cooperative. This morning I'm going to talk mostly about electric rates. It's actually a pretty boring topic. It's pretty dry, but bear with me, maybe about 15 minutes. But you are the owners of the co-op, so you should know. Your management staff proposed and the board approved an 8% rate increase to take effect starting with September's electric bills. Our last rate change, as Larry mentioned, was August 2010, and we've invested $42 million in power reliability upgrades over those past 13 years without a rate increase. And we've returned $19.6 million to you in patronage cash back over that time frame as well. And that's all in addition to everything else with running the business, all without raising rates. Now, when I say that we haven't raised our rates in 13 years, I'm referring to our distribution rates. There are three parts to the electric system: generation, transmission, and distribution. Generation is what Buckeye Power does for us, what Pat just talked about, and they also coordinate the high voltage transmission. And you can see those two combined represents about 67% of our total cost. So 67 cents of every dollar that you send us go for generation and the high voltage transmission. And then distribution is what we do from the substation to your home. Now, the generation and transmission part of your bill has gone up. On average, about 1% or a little bit under 1% per year. Other than with load management for water heaters and air conditioners, the generation and transmission part is mostly out of our control. And you've seen that slight increase in the power cost adjustment part of your electric bill. It's called power cost adjustment. It's a line item right on your electric bill. The distribution part of our bill, our part, the part that we directly control, that's what I'm referring to when we say that we haven't changed our rate since 2010. So while it's an overall 8% total increase, different customer groups will see different impacts. Our residential rates will increase 9% on average, and our commercial rates will increase 2% on average. And this is all based on cost of service studies, which show that we have been slightly over-collecting from our commercial members. A cost of service study is a detailed financial breakdown of what it costs the cooperative just to make service available. And while it's not practical to have completely perfect, if you will, electric rates, our goal is to try to match our rates as closely as practical with the actual cost of making service available. And this helps to prevent one group of customers, such as commercial, from overpaying and thereby subsidizing other customers. The cost of service study also shows that the cost of making electric service available is mostly a fixed cost, meaning it costs us the same to make service available, whether you use 0 kilowatt hours or 1,000 kilowatt hours. Most of our costs don't vary based on how much you use. The fixed costs of running our business are paid by you through the fixed monthly service availability charge. That's something that is also broken out on your bill. It's currently $35 a month. The fixed costs of running our business, things that don't vary with your amount of electric use, include things like poles, wires, substations, transformers, meters, tree trimming, pole testing, interest, depreciation, as well as the cost of repairs, maintenance, and upgrades. The service availability charge helps pay for ongoing electric reliability investments, and these are costs that we pay every month to make power available, just to make it available and reliable, even if no electricity is used. So this is why our last distribution rate increase in 2010 was mostly in our fixed monthly service availability charge. Again, it's currently $35 per month, and we'll be increasing this $10 to $45 per month to more closely match the actual cost to the cooperative of making service available. Our kilowatt hour energy charge, the other part of your bill, will increase only slightly, about a half a cent per kilowatt hour. It currently averages around 11 cents per kilowatt hour when you combine the energy rate with the power cost adjustment, and it will be about 11.5 cents per kilowatt hour when combined with the power cost adjustment. We feel that putting more of the increase in our service availability charge helps to create rates that are more fair to all consumers. If we made the service availability charge lower, these costs up here don't magically disappear. We still incur those costs, and we would just have to collect it from you then in a higher kilowatt hour charge. And that would have the effect of putting the fixed costs into a variable charge. So that would have the effect of making higher users, people who use more, pay more than what it actually costs us to make service available. And then lower users would be paying less than the actual cost of making service available. So we try to design our rates as close as we can to the actual cost of providing service. So a common question that we get is from seasonal customers who aren't at their location for months at a time, or even a standard residential customer who maybe goes on vacation for a month. Why do I have to pay this service availability charge when I'm not even there? And the answer is because we're still paying all of those fixed costs even when you're not there. If we didn't charge you that month, or if we lowered the service availability charge, the cooperative still pays, which means other members would be paying your costs for you. But at the end of the day, just remember, rates pay for reliability. And as you can see from this comparison chart, even after our new rates, we'll still be lower than AEP, AES, or DP&L, and the Ohio Cooperative average. In fact, we have the lowest rates among Ohio's 24 electric cooperatives. And you've probably heard a lot about the other utilities with some of their big increases. AES recently had a rate increase over 20%. AEP has a 28% rate increase that just started this month. So it's important to note that when I talk about a 9% average residential increase or $15 average, the percentage increase and dollar increase amounts are based on projections at the time the board approved the new rates as compared to our 2022 wholesale power cost adjustment. That power cost adjustment is expected to continue increasing due to rising power generation and transmission costs. So these percentages and dollar amounts that we use in our communications are really a snapshot in time for reference purposes. So despite the fact that our total bill is lower, we're often asked, why is the service availability part so much higher than AEP and AES? And the reason for that really has to do with the rural nature of our service area. On average, we serve 6 consumers per mile of line. AEP serves 29 per mile of line, and AES serves on average 26 per mile of line. According to the Public Utilities Commission of Ohio, AEP has invested $4,618 per residential consumer in its distribution system. AES has invested $4,299 per residential consumer, and Midwest Electric has invested $5,627 per residential member. Also, according to the PUCO, AEP and AES get about 61% of their total revenue from residential consumers. Midwest Electric gets about 67% of our total revenue from residential members. So this means that they're able to get more of their revenue from the higher use commercial and industrial accounts, and thus spread their fixed costs among higher sales of higher users. So as a result, according to the PUCO, AEP earns $58,291 in annual revenue per mile of distribution line. For AES, it's $34,655 in annual revenue per mile of line, and $21,198 per mile of line for Midwest Electrics. And we're absolutely not complaining about any of this or asking for sympathy. In fact, we're proud that we're able to compete so favorably despite the challenges of being a rural service provider. This is simply meant to underscore the inherent economic challenges of a rural utility provider. It simply costs more with a lower return. So that's why we have to charge more in the fixed part of your monthly bill. But we will always strive to maintain highly competitive rates with a priority on safety and reliability. With our rate design, we also want to continue to incentivize and reward energy efficiency. We can help you do the math on comparisons versus propane or upgrading to more efficient heating systems. And energy efficiency is still one of the best financial investments a homeowner can make. And we've got programs to help you with all of that. Speaking of cost comparisons, even after our upcoming increase, electric still costs less than propane to heat your water, and an electric heat pump or geothermal costs less than propane to heat your house. This here is, I guess I'll call it an abbreviated copy of our income statement. Obviously, the numbers are rounded up, but this is to represent this. This is a representation of what our year-end 2022 financials were. And as you can see, so I want to focus on the operating margin. After all this time without a distribution rate change, the increasing costs of doing business have simply caught up to us. Quite simply, our costs are increasing faster than our revenue. Our operating margins are barely positive and declining, which means we're not making enough money in the basic operation of our business. Now, you might look at this and say $375,000, that's a good chunk of money. It's still positive. But for our business, we have $70 million in a utility plant and total revenue of $34 million. So it's not nearly enough. It's not adequate if we want to continue to invest in reliability. So this also means that member equity is declining, or the percent of our electric system that you own versus what the banks own. And the upcoming rate increase will fix all of this and keep us in positive operating margins and keep our member equity in a healthy range in order to minimize our cost of capital. So you've all seen inflation in different aspects of your life, and this is just a snapshot of how we've seen it. You can see some of the percentages in there of some of the basic equipment that we use on a daily basis, how much the cost has increased for us. And so that's a big reason why we're in the situation, is the substantial inflation that we've seen in all aspects of our business. So some members have asked, well, why 9% all at once? Why not do smaller increases like 1% every year? And that is a valid question, and some utilities do that. That just isn't our approach at this time. How would we have known if the 1% would be too little or too much? Our preference is to not seek the increase until we need it. We do a 10-year financial forecast every year, which informs us when we need to start planning for a rate increase. Another common question we get has to do with patronage and electric rates. Why not stop paying the patronage instead of raising rates? Or if we stopped or reduced your annual patronage payments, could we avoid or reduce the rate increase? And that's a very good question. But the two are separate. We are a not-for-profit corporation, so by law, any margins that we make must be allocated back to the members. That's allocation. But the retirement of the patronage is when it's actually paid back to you in the annual bill credit. We do have some flexibility when it comes to how much or whether we pay it back. However, if we stopped paying back patronage, we would come under legal scrutiny and be subject to lawsuits, and this has happened to electric cooperatives elsewhere in the U.S. The patronage that you contribute belongs to you. It's like a loan and therefore should be paid back over time. Delaying or reducing the patronage payments creates a fairness issue also for the members who put money or patronage into the cooperative. If we stop paying back patronage, the longer-term members would be taking the hit to give current members a benefit. The patronage system is meant to be a perpetual system, so the cooperative has an obligation to return the margins when we can. All that being said, though, sometimes we do have to reduce or delay the margin payments depending on our financial condition. So it is always an option, but it's just not a preferred option. So in closing, please take advantage of our savings opportunities. These include bill credits for e-bill and paperless billing, peak load management with your water heater and air conditioner, personal energy audits, rebates for energy efficiency upgrades, saving with electric versus propane, and energy efficiency advice on our website or by calling us. The entire purpose of electric rates is to pay for the service, which means to pay for reliability. While it's difficult to present in any economy, the good news is that our rates on the whole are very competitive and our power reliability is strong. But power reliability is not a one and done thing. It takes continuous ongoing investments in maintenance and upgrades and outage repair. What good would cheaper rates be if we had more outages that lasted longer? Well, thank you for your attendance and your attention this morning. So at this time, we will open the floor for questions of me or Buckeye Power. We've got a couple microphones. I would just ask that after you ask your question, if you could hand the mic back out of courtesy. So.
Who keeps is this on? Okay. Who keeps sending me paperwork wanting to rent 10 to 30 acres to put solar on it?
That I don't know. That's probably a solar developer. So you're getting mailings about
Anyways, the other question is, if you had the amount of electric cars charging every night after they come home from work, what's that going to do to the rates by having spikes?
Yeah, good question, good question. So that's something that a lot of utilities are kind of struggling with these days. What are we going to do about the demand that these electric vehicles place on our system? On the low end, you're probably looking at 7 kW for a vehicle, but more and more we're starting to see like 15 kW plus for an electric vehicle, which is pretty sizable. So what a lot of utilities are looking at is different rate design. We're talking, when we're looking at some of this too for the future, not the current rate design, but time of use type rates where the rate would be higher at certain times of the day, which would most likely be in those early evening hours, but then cheaper other times of the day. residential demand rates. Demand is a concept that we're going to start to introduce to all consumers. So you're going to start to see on your bill KW demand. And I didn't really plan to get into it today because it may be a subject for another time, but there's two main billing parts for utility. There's kilowatt hour energy and there's KW demand. And demand is kind of what you're referring to. Demand is more that instantaneous impact on the electric cooperative. What do you need right now? Whereas kilowatt hour energy is what did I use over an extended period. And so we're going to start printing on your bill your highest demand from the prior month. There will be no charge for it. We're not charging for it, but just as an education piece, your bill is going to show KW demand just to kind of start this education going. But that could be something then down the road that could happen. Like if right now the electric vehicles in our area are very, very small penetration. We serve, it's in the surveys that we ask our members, do you have an electric vehicle? Do you plan to get one? And it's like fewer than 2% of our members. So we don't expect any kind of overnight, bad situation for us, but it's just something we want to start planning for. We are implementing a new part with our rate coming up. For those residential consumers who have over a 20 kW demand, there will be an additional $20 service charge for that particular month. Now that is a small number of residential. Of our 9,000 residential members, I think the number is around 300 that will be in that group. So it's people who are more than just a house. They've got maybe they've got grain bins or things like that. So they have some kind of a business that's there. So the power supply, how are we going to meet the demand? That's a good question. And that gets back to everything Pat just talked about. We just can't count on wind and solar. You can't count on wind and solar, so you have to have coal, natural gas, and nuclear. We're all of the above as far as the... So that gets back to what Larry said too on the political front. We've got to keep that pressure on the folks in Columbus and Washington just to educate. It's crazy that it's even gotten to this point. Like, where's the common sense? But
hey, Matt, I have a question over here. We live on Slabtown Road, and it's my understanding that AEP is running a line from the substation on Blue Lick Road or Slabtown Road there by 75 to Columbus Grove with these large metal poles. Now, are you and AEP sharing that? I mean, they've got easement stakes out there up to about past Blue Lick Road there, and it jumps on both sides of the road, or are they that going to be a separate power going to Columbus Grove that won't affect Midwest Electric? Are they going to leave the Midwest Electric poles there, the wooden poles?
Well, it's all AEP transmission,
Project.
but it will benefit Midwest Electric. They provide the transmission to our Blue Lick substation, and so we are looking at an upgrade of our Blue Lick substation that coincides with the work that AEP is doing.
Well, if Freddie Rader's going to get a steel pole in the middle of his front yard 20 foot up there, he's not going to be too happy.
Okay. Well, I don't know.
Matt, we got another one over here.
I have a question about Buckeye Power. I don't know if you can answer that or not, but how well is that plant going into the future? How reliable? And secondly, with all the EPA regulations, which I know can be deferred to some certain point, we as co-op members throughout the state of Ohio, can we start investing in something that's state-of-the-art and stay ahead of our government that seems to be against us? And the state-of-the-art, how much planning does that take and how much investment?
That's all you had? So I will tell you that the coal plants that we operate at Cardinal specifically, even though they are older, have been kept up, and they literally are state-of-the-art. We have the finest environmental controls that you can put on a power plant. We've upgraded many of the other systems along the way, and it's as good a coal-fired power plant as you're going to have. And I will tell you that we're going to probably need that for at least the next 20 years, no matter what. Even though there's a lot of people that would like to see it shut down sooner than that, I just don't think that's going to work. State-of-the-art power plants today are, the newest ones are more efficient natural gas plants. We have a couple of natural gas plants. We will probably look to do another one at some point as our demand does increase. The challenge with natural gas continues to be, though, how do you handle the coldest winter days, because we don't have enough pipeline infrastructure to take care of everything we need on those days. At our Moan and Greenville plants, we've used oil as a backup, which will get us through a day or two, but so that's probably what the next thing we'll do is. We've also looked to the future as maybe having some nuclear power, but it's so far has proven to be so expensive in the plants that have been built that we're going to need somebody to prove out besides us gambling your money that we can do it cheaper than other people on how to do a nuclear plant. And unfortunately, those are going to take 15, 20, 25 years to develop. So that's a ways away for us. So we're going to really have to make do with what we have and continue to keep it up and in good shape. We'll look at natural gas. And we've added some solar. We'll probably continue to add some of that. It's just not going to be enough to carry the day. It's fine, and we will add some to help pick up some of our extra demand, but it's not going to be the workhorse of our system probably ever. Hope that answered your question.
We're getting close to 10 o'clock. Is there maybe just one last question?
Got one here, Matt. I'm just wondering, is there any sort of grassroots campaigning going on? And by that, I mean this, that it seems like a lot of these young kids and so forth, the education they're getting is anti what we stand for. It's great we have meetings like this, but it's like preaching to the choir. I think John Kerry or somebody, and I had heard this, that says what we need is more regulation on farmers, that less farming and so forth, and people agree with that because they say, well, we don't need farmers, we just simply go to the grocery store and buy our food. And the same thing, I believe, applies as to electricity.
Yeah, just plug it in.
A lot of these people are under the assumption that, well, we just throw the damn the switch, we got power, and they don't have any realization what is entailed in doing that. And I'm just wondering, like I say, we've got to get to these people somehow.
Yeah. Well, yeah, thanks, Bill. That's a good comment. We do have a grassroots political action program. The banner there, America's Electric Cooperatives Political Action Committee. Midwest Electric is a leader in that. We've got about 700 of our members that are part of it, and I'd encourage you to consider joining that. And then we have been trying to do more education-wise. Pat talked about some of the things they're doing on a statewide basis with the REAL videos was the acronym. We're trying to do more of that on social media and other communications, but it's tough. It's hard. Seems like there's only so much we can do, and there's just an avalanche coming from other communications avenues that we just are difficult to overcome. But we're going to do everything we can, and we're going to keep talking to the people who make the decisions and let them know the implication of these things that are happening. And a big part of the problem is that Congress has ceded so much power to the bureaucrats, like EPA, unaccountable, unelectable. So it's difficult to make any kind of headway with those groups. But we'll keep fighting, and we just ask for your help along the way, and stay informed, stay involved, and respond to our calls for help. So. All right, thanks again. If you have any follow-up questions, we have to exit in a little bit for our reorganization meeting, but contact us in the office. We're very accessible, and we'll respond to your questions.
You know, in a lot of ways, we've all been victims of our own success. I've spent most of my career making sure none of you ever had to worry about where your electricity was going to come from or how you were going to get it. And today, we don't have that luxury anymore. And I think as farmers, the same thing has been true. You've been so successful at feeding us that many of us just have to go to the grocery store and not think much about it. But every once in a while, reality bites us, and we do have to educate people. And it does take some time and it takes some effort, and we are putting a lot into it at the statewide level, and I know Matt and his team are putting a lot into it locally. And you're right, largely here we're speaking to the choir, but we're just going to keep talking to everybody, and I do have a lot of confidence that in the end, common sense usually wins out, but doesn't always win the first couple rounds. So we're going to keep at it.
Okay, well, thank you. And with that, I believe Adam Johnson, our co-op attorney.
Good morning. It's my responsibility to announce the results of this year's election. We had 2 positions on the board up for election this year. We received a ballot for each, or a petition for each of those positions that required 15 valid signatures. The election was held May 31st via mail and electronic voting means. For District 1, which is Auglaize County and Shelby County, we received 1 petition by Randy Heinel, who's sitting to my left. And then for District 2, which is Allen County and Putnam County, we received a petition from Larry Vandemark. The election committee appointed to inspect and count the ballots, as well as certify the results, was Diamond Communication Solutions. All ballots of this election are held at the co-op for a period of 1 year. The results obviously show that Randy and Larry won, as they had no one running against them. So these 2 directors will serve a period of 3 years, starting after the commencement of their oath. If Randy and Larry could please stand and take their oath of office. Please raise your right hands. Will you pledge to provide the members with energy and related services of the highest and most dependable quality at the lowest cost, consistent with sound business principles? If so, please answer, I will.
I will.
Do you pledge to support the policies of the Cooperative and dedicate yourself to understanding and applying the Cooperative principles to the best of your ability? If so, please answer, I will.
I will.
Will you pledge to follow the laws of the state of Ohio and of the United States in carrying out your duties as a director of Midwest Electric, Inc.? If so, please answer, I will.
I will.
Lastly, the Cooperative has a history of being a good cooperative citizen in its community, and to the extent possible, consistent with the Cooperative's core mission to seek improvement in the areas of economic, social, educational, environmental, and community development. Will you pledge to give due consideration to these concerns? If so, please answer, I will.
I will.
Congratulations, you both are installed.
Okay, this brings us to the end of our meeting here. So at this time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting. Moved and seconded. It's been moved and seconded. Is there? No, it's not debatable. So all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. This concludes our annual meeting, and I wish everyone have a safe travel back home. Our employees will come up and handle the scholarship award program, as well as our door prizes. Now, all the board members here will adjourn and go into our reorganizational meeting. So again, have safe travels, and really want to give thanks for everyone participating in your member, being a member here and listening to what's happening to your co-op and being involved. Again, thank you very much.
Well, don't leave yet. Hope you enjoyed the breakfast this morning. That was Old Barn Out Back, brought that down from Lima. They've done it for several years now, or most of our years. What we do also, we've got some gifts to hand out. You know, we appreciate your time, and what we can do at least is maybe put little dollars in your pocket right now. So the biggest gift's $500, and it'll work its way down. Prior to that, we're going to do a scholarship drawing. So we had, I think, 10 applicants show up today, you know, try to incentivize some younger generation to get through the door. We have 10 applicants going to college or coming up to college, and we're going to pick one out of the hat and see who wins that $1,000 scholarship. And this year's winner is Quinn Holtzapple. Is Quinn around? It's coming from the top there. Quinn will be attending Defiance College. Looks like his father's name James Holtzapple. Congratulations, Quinn.
Thank you. Congrats. Thank you.
Come on. Quinn, call back with Keisha Schmergy on a future day, and she can talk to you about the details on how to get your $1,000. Thanks, Quinn. Congratulations. All right, yeah. You wanna draw them out, Bill? So we've started different in the past. We used to start with the 50s and worked up to 500, and whoever won a 50 was wishing they were in there to win the 500. So we switched that. We always start with the 500 lately. So we'll draw for the 500 winner first. Thanks, Julie. And this year's 500 is David Dickey. Is Mr. Dickey present? There he is in the center. Now we're at some $100 levels. Albert Albers. Mr. Albers? Over here. They have to be present, unfortunately. Michael Yohe. Another 100 is Matthew Liette. Mr. Liette. Oh, here he comes. Still at 100. Rick Burnett. We still at 100 roll?
Got two. You're right. Yeah.
Linda Evans. Right up front here. This is the last 100. We have some $50, many $50 after that. Last 100 is Carol McCullough. I see over here. We're at 50s now. Max Johnson? Or is that May Johnson? Ed Mormon? Are you Ed? No? Is Ed here? Ed Mormon left? John Mormon? Very close. Herbert and Carol Brown, or Herschel and Carol Brown, sorry. No Browns. Ken Wilson. Ken Wilson. Little drought there. Rick Tangerman. See in the center here. Clifford Brenneman. Clifford Brenneman left. Gary Selhorst. There we are, Gary and Ann Selhorst. Elizabeth Adkins. Elizabeth Adkins. Top right. Looks like Mary Heindel. Right here? All right. Ann Vogel in the center there. Looks like Cody Steinke. Cody Steinke. Jacob Eilerman. Alan Dietz. Alan Dietz. Or is that Dietz? Could be either. Thomas Stahman. Lowell Schleuder. Lowell Schleuder. There we go. Looks like Darlene Peppelman. Right over there, near Crystal. Ron Wilker. Ron Wilker. Chris Henshin. Larry Meyer. Jerry Wright. Jerry Wright. Oh, right here. Right top. Don Weekert. I like that. Bingo's good. Rick Usler. Did I hear that? Rick Usler? All right. Edward McClurg. Right center. Top. How are we doing, Joel? Three left. Joseph Wenning. There we go. Second to last, Robert Link. Top left. Last one, unless they're not here. We do have some giveaways. We have a toolbox that was donated, and then we have the flowers. So we'll draw for those right after this one. If you don't want the item, just let us know, and then we'll draw again for someone else. Donald Hook for the $50. Bottom, top right over there, I see. Where was that? On the top right side there. We got the toolbox. James Cave. James Cave. Do you want the toolbox? All right. Now we have flowers, all about the same. Hang them up, got to water them. Leonard Garkey. Leonard Garkey. Oh, you want some flowers, Leonard? All right.
Just lay it on it.
Good job. Thanks. Lester Toby. You want some flowers, Lester? Flowers are here with your name on it. Just pick it up at the front. Vicki Kuhn. You want some flowers, Vicki? All right. Usually. Derek Rendler. Derek Rendler? Keegan Pitchrock. Flowers? All right. John Seitz. Flowers? Yes? Last set of flowers.
Gotta be one of these.
Yes. And this was the last one. They were here. Derek Rendler. Well, thanks for coming, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the day. Enjoy the rest of it. Oh, you don't need that.